Shabbat Shalom, I hope you're doing well and ready for an invigorating and relaxing and restful Shabbat. You know, the Torah speaks to all of us in different ways. There are different stories and different laws that relate to each person on their own level and with their own experiences. And for me, at least in the last 5.5 years, as the father of 5 daughters, the story of the daughters of Zelophehad has had personal significance for me. Zelophehad was a man in the Bible from the tribe of Manasseh who has 5 daughters and no sons. And in the ancient laws of inheritance, the ancient rules of inheritance, it was, of course, the father left the assets to the sons. They were the ones who inherited. And these 5 daughters, with no brothers, petitioned Moshe and said, we should be the ones to inherit our father. And the Midrash notes that this is an extraordinary request, that it was the men and the emphasis on the men in the story of the spies that we read just a few weeks ago. You know what the spies representing the men said? We can't do it. We don't want to go into the land. It's too scary there. We can't see ourselves there. And now the women represented by the daughters of Zelophehad are coming forward and saying, we want our portion in the land. We want to go in. We want to have a portion. We want to own the land. We want to settle the land. We want to be there. And that's an extraordinary attribute that they bring. The Midrash notes something else, that something was triggered for Moshe, or something clicked in his mind when the leader Moses hears the petition of the daughters, and they are saying, we want to inherit that which was our father's. And Moshe says to himself, thinks, but who is going to inherit me? I have sons. I need to start making plans for them to become the next leaders. But our tradition is, of course, as the Talmud says, that Torah leadership is not inherited. It's earned. It's a meritocracy. And Hashem, God, says to Moses, Yehoshua bin Nun is going to be the one who inherits you. He's going to be the one to take over after your leadership and after your life is over. And that must have been a moment of great disappointment for Moshe, because one plans, one dreams for one's own children, but it wasn't meant to be, because that's not the way that Torah leadership is. It was meant to be given to the most capable, not to the one who is most closely related to the current leader. Moshe does what he is supposed to do, and he invests leadership in Joshua. And the way he does it is done, and as Chazal, as the rabbis say, as Rashi notes, he does it with a generous measure. He doesn't hold back. Once he's told what the right thing is to do, he doesn't hold back, but that doesn't prevent us for a moment in reflecting that Moshe might have been disappointed. And he might have been disappointed because of what he had built. He had built this extraordinary career of leadership. He had built his place within the nation. And now suddenly, is part of his dream won't be fulfilled. And I think that's so true with much in life, that we build. And we have dreams for that which we build. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And the question is, what's our attitude? What's our response when it doesn't work out? And I think this question has really come to the fore in the last week as we've all been distracted in some way. We've all been closely connected in following that story in Surfside, Florida, of the apartment building, of the condos that collapsed. And it's an absolute tragedy. And I was thinking about 10 years ago, it's 10 years ago next week, that KJ, Kilath Jethrim, the synagogue in New York, the leading modern Orthodox synagogue, it experienced a terrible fire in their historic sanctuary. 10 years ago, a decade ago. And at the time, Rabbi Haskell Lookstein said, and was quoted in many of the newspapers as saying, this is not a tragedy. This is a catastrophe, but it's not a tragedy. It's a catastrophe because our historic building is severely damaged. It's not a tragedy because no lives were lost. And I think of that, reflecting on the extraordinary tragedy in Surfside, as the numbers of those who perished go up as we follow the news, and we of course maintain hope, and of course we continue to pray. But it's a tragedy. The catastrophe is that the building fell. And the tragedy is that there were lives that were lost. And I would add another element to that tragedy, which is the dreams of the people who had built their homes there, who had purchased homes there, who had invested so much of themselves in that space. Because so much of what we do in life is connected to where we live. And the idea that our dreams are contained therein is an extraordinary idea. I think of that moment, and we continue to pray for those affected by the tragedy and for those who are being affected now by so much of what is happening in the world. And it's our prayer that what we build, we're able to contain within there our dreams and the fulfillment of our dreams. And when that doesn't work and when that doesn't happen, then we're able to see the wisdom, we're able to see the hand of God. And like Moses responded by giving the blessing in generous measure to Joshua, even though it didn't go to his sons, then we respond to these moments of disappointment with our own sense of blessing. And the blessing, I'll close with mentioning, of course, the blessing of the Israeli teams that have gone down to Florida to help out. I saw an extraordinary interview that I'm sure many of you saw with the leader of one of those teams from the IDF who corrected the interviewer a number of times. When the interviewer said, "Did you find bodies?" And he said, "Not bodies, people. That's what we're looking for. We don't look for bodies. We look for people, because we never forget the humanity." And that's one thing that Israel can bring and that the Jewish tradition can bring, is always remembering the humanity in happy situations and in difficult situations as well. So we continue to pray, we continue to build, we continue to dream, and when our dreams are unfulfilled, we continue to respond with a great sense of resilience. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of happiness and comfort for all, and may our prayers be answered. Be well, be healthy. Shabbat Shalom.